right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Biafrans. Good morning, the world citizens. Welcome to this global platform, the Mobbing Media International. It is still your friend, your colleague in the trenches, your colleague in the intellectual struggle for the liberation of a people that's from whom the name Africa was found. Many people did not know that the word Biafra was here when the Portuguese came. Africa as a continent was named from Biafra. Afra, the home of the God-man. Biafra, Biafra, Biafra. That's how you got Africa. And so, Afra, the God-man. So we are dealing with the people who had founded the world, the people who have founded the human race. This is an intellectual, an archaeological discovery, and it has been posted. It's a scientific research. So you're welcome again to this global lecture theater, where we intend to keep telling you that life outside the political, after God, is like cocking a gun and shooting yourself in the leg. And so, in the past weeks, we have discussed Nigeria and how we got to where we are. And of course, continuing from that, I was talking about the fact that, well, I'm still your friend and brother, evangelist Dr. Joseph Agbo, Director, Political Education and Governance, Movement of Biafrans in Nigeria, the political educators, and the senior lecturer in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Ebonyi State University, Abakaliki, Nigeria. We had discussed the fact that when we returned, last week, we were talking about the fact that when we returned to the political, we should have gone back. I mean, when we returned to the democratic, to the civilian regime, we should have gone back to where we began, to where we fell. But we thought that Nigeria began in 1978. And so we hoisted a presidential system, which we borrowed from America. And we refused to borrow all the things that are in America. All the 50 states in America have their own constitutions. All the states, they have their own constitution and a federal constitution. Right now in Nigeria, do the states have their constitutions? No. They don't, because we have produced one document. I told you we are still going to discuss this constitution. We have produced one document that is playing God. We want to put everything inside it, inside one document. If you look at the American Constitution, the federal constitution is very terse. I mean, sorry, it's very small. It's not big. Not the one we have now where we want to put everything inside. The reason is because the other people, the states, were not allowed to have their own constitutions. And we say we are running a democracy. So as we want to discuss democracy now, I want to ask you, what do you understand by democracy? Is democracy these things that we do in Nigeria? Is it democratic? What? How far? And the reason why I'm discussing this is because the Biafran request, the Biafran demand, is a democratic demand. That's one. The Biafran demand is a democratic demand. It's a right. It's a right we owe our people. It's a right we have as indigenous people. I've always told you that IPOB is not an organization. IPOB is a people. IPOB only became an organization. I am an indigenous person of Biafra. And in September 13, 2007, the United Nations brought out what they call UN DRIP, the United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous People of the Earth. The 370 million indigenous people of the world have a right to determine their own destiny. They have a right to self-determination. So the Biafran demand is a democratic demand. If it is not a democratic demand, people like us will not be involved in it. And that is why we insist that whatever we do it in such a democratic way, because that is where the world is heading. And I am not just discussing the liberal democratic variant, the one we have from the West, where the individual is God. I'm discussing communalist democracy, where the people take charge of their own affairs. Not this type that we operate. And so democracy requires, the one that we're operating now globally, the world over, requires that we do those things that we are doing in a legitimate way and in a democratic way. Yes, people talk about majority carrying the vote. That is Western style democracy. But I want to tell you that in Africa, what we do is consensus, consensual, consultative democracy. And in the West, the majority rules over the minority. But in the African consultative, consensual democracy, the majority prevails upon. There's a difference. In the Western majoritarian democracy, the majority prevails over. But in the consensual democracy, the majority prevails upon the minority to accept a position. And this prevailing is done by consultation. Originally, the elders will sit under the big trees and talk and talk and talk. If they don't agree, they will adjourn. They will adjourn. Come back tomorrow and continue the discussion until they agree. Now, everybody may not agree, but those who disagree, the majority will prevail upon them to accept that decision as the best. But in the majoritarian democracy we operate, the majority prevails over, whether they like it or not. But I'm just laying that as, I wanted to show you the importance of the political democracy that we have now globally. When Woodrow Wilson was president of America in 1919, when the League of Nations began, he said he wanted to make the world free. He wanted to make the world free for democracy, following on the World War I between 1914 and 1918. The League of Nations came on board. And that was why, I think I've said it in one of these series, but it's important to repeat it. The League of Nations then said that no new nation can emerge from another nation by the mere expression of a wish. They didn't say a new nation can't emerge. They just said it won't emerge just because you wished it. So those who are in their houses, who don't want to participate in political process, said, we want Biafra with your mouth. Biafra is not pronounced into existence. At least you don't have the sovereign power to do so, sitting down in your house. So it is here that we'll get involved. I tell you the danger we are facing by refusing to participate in the democratic process. I am not happy with the state of democracy in Nigeria. In fact, I always like to say that what we have is a little civilian regime. There's nothing democratic about what we are doing yet. And the reason is simple. We have abandoned our democratic space to people who are playing agency role for powers outside Biafra land. And the more we continue to abandon it, the more we continue to abdicate our responsibility, the more our situation gets worse. Let me tell you something that Ibn Nala is the Senate leader in this house, in this National Assembly that is winding up, that I just winded up. While he was president, while he was a member of the House of Reps in 2009, he stood up before the House and told the whole world that they can decide to kill 20 million Niger Deltans so that the remaining 140 million Nigerians will enjoy the oil. That what is happening in the Niger Delta is sheer criminality. Democracy. He was talking at the House of Reps. So they promoted him to the Senate. I don't know what it's going to be now. But when you remember what the former governor of old Kaduna State, Alhaji Sani Keita, said in same 2009, he said, and I quote, "Anything short of a northern president is tantamount to stealing our presidency. If Goodluck Jonathan uses incumbency power to get nomination by the PDP, we will frustrate him out. We will make the country ungovernable." Unquote. Since 2009 till now, 10 years after, has Nigeria been governable? But they said this thing under a democratic regime. Why? Because they are holding certain political positions. It is not as if we don't have people who are holding the same type of political position within our territory. But you see, they don't owe us because we didn't agree to send them. We abandoned them. We ran away. We said later we were playing football the day of election. We were sitting down playing draft. We were sitting over a bottle of pepper soup and a bottle of beer and saying, "Oh, Jebego, oh, Jebego," when you are not participating. And so we face a danger that the more we abdicate our position, the more our political space is occupied. There are 600 million registered voters in India, the world's largest democracy. 80-something% voted during the last election. Unprecedented. 80-something%. That is the level of participation. And the truth is, the more we run away, the more we have issues. That was what I told my brother, Nnamdi Kanu, on May 8, 2017, when I met him at a private meeting in Enugu. I told him, you don't have to contest, but that we can decide who goes to Agbo as governor of Anambra State. All we need to do is get somebody who is a core Biafran. And then look at our problem. Look at the problem we have in this state. Look at how you will solve it. Take care of the people. Because that is what leadership is all about. Leadership is to take care of the people. When Chinua Achebe wrote that small book, The Trouble with Nigeria in 1983, in the opening line states very clearly, the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely the problem of leadership. Full stop. And then Chinwe Izu now wrote, Caliphate Colonialism, the taproot of the trouble with Nigeria. You need to go and look for that book and read. So, if you find out, so I told my brother, I said, let us decide. We can decide. I said, you don't have to contest. It's not necessary. I don't have to contest too. But in any case, he's not from Anambra. I'm not from Anambra. But that we can find a core Anambra man who is a Biafran, whom we can discuss with. Because politics is all about you. That's what this man calls it. Harold Laswell. Who gets what, when, and how? Who gets what, when, and how? Authoritative allocation and redistribution of resources. And if you don't have the right of person who will be there, that is why our resources are being stolen. People are stealing us dry. And they are coming on television to talk, to tell us what. What is the earning of an average governor? But the unfortunate thing is that they have given them, the constitution has given them so much power that they can do whatever they like. Some of the things that are in Nigerian constitution, you can't find it anywhere, any constitution in the world, where somebody will be spending money for 6 months before budget is passed. 6 months. You have just handed over the country to the person. But he disagreed. Say it is better. He told us not to vote in Anambra. And I reminded him, I said, Masop said the same thing in 2006, that we should not be counted, that we are no longer Nigerians. Nobody, look, go and check all the people who are stateless people. They have a problem. We are still stateless. We are still Nigerian citizens, even though we are indigenous of Biafra. That's what mobbing preaches. We are still Nigerian citizens. And until we leave Nigeria, we will still be carrying the green passport. Come on. Masop said we should not be counted 13 years ago. that we are no longer Nigerians. I ask you, are we not Nigerians? We are. You can deceive yourself and fool yourself and delude yourself and bamboozle yourself and deceive yourself that you are not a Nigerian, but you are a Nigerian. Your children still attend Nigerian schools. Your children get National Examination Council, NECO. That is Nigerian exam. Your children still attend Nigerian markets and buy. Somebody say, I'm not a Nigerian, and he has naira inside his pocket. Come on. Let's be serious for once. So this democracy is such that if you abdicate your political space, that's what I told my people then in Anambra. I said, the election in Anambra is to vote the governor. The House of Assembly is intact. So why are you avoiding it? If you avoid it, what have you added? Nothing. If the avoidance is violence, or if it is peaceful, the Speaker of Anambra State of Assembly, somehow, if election didn't hold, that's what I was telling them in that 2017. If election didn't hold, something happens and election didn't hold, the Speaker of Anambra State of Assembly will transit into an acting governor. The House will elect another speaker. That acting governor will begin to appoint executive members, and the government continues. What have we achieved? Nothing. As a matter of fact, we have only reversed the progress we have made. But if it is violent, Abuja will declare a state of emergency in Anambra and send one Malam to come and be governor. So at the end, what have you achieved? Nothing. So, and thank God it played out. Mobbing fought, sometimes at the risk of our own lives, to ensure that Anambrarians voted at the end of the day. So we should have, it's no longer, we are not asking for foresight anymore. We are asking you, take the advantage of the hindsight. Look at what has happened in the past and use it as a basis. The democracy we operate now is such that if you abandon your political space and 10 people, I always give that example. Anambra has about 2 million voters. Every election, less than 500,000 people will come out. And the remaining 1.5 million will be there in their houses. Maybe 100,000 will vote. Let us even around, maybe 100,000 or 50,000 comes out to vote. At the end of the day, 10,000 people votes for the winner. The other people share. That winner will be announced. If it is 10 people that comes out to vote, and 5 votes for the winner, 2 votes for the other person, 1 votes to the other person, at the end of the day, that 5 will be announced. So you have a situation where 5 people took the decision that will affect 2 million people. Tomorrow, when that man, because of executive power, gives order, you don't have a choice. So at the end of the day, you just see that you are deceiving yourself, you are fooling yourself. And the reason why these people have continued to hold us down like this is because we have abandoned that space. If that 1.5 million people who were not voting before comes out and say, look, let's put a Biafran there. I am not saying that people will not disappoint us, but people had accident yesterday in the vehicles, yet you still go and enter it. We are saying democracy and the world is not prepared to listen to you if you are discussing anarchy. That is the danger. You cannot approach the world to come and support the process, the progress you are making. Because you won't even be making progress if you are not involved in the political process in your country. If we are not involved in the political process in Nigeria, we cannot make progress. And that is why the world cannot accept or be part of what we are doing if we are telling them that we are anarchical, that there should be no leadership, there should be no powers. Go and ask South Africa. They had to wind up their constitution, gave it 18 months to wind up, and they called a multiracial conference and drew a new constitution on the basis of which Mandela became president. We are going to be discussing that when we discuss constitution. But the point I'm making today is that democracy is critical. And the type of democracy that we are doing now, if we don't get involved, only a few charlatans will be running our affairs. And if we keep quiet, they will run it till the year 3000. And life, People are coming and going. We want to live a better society. We want to live a better political space for our people, for our children. At least I have. And you have too. You are listening to me. And I'm sure you won't like to have this kind of country where people are stealing us dry and they are claiming to be our leaders. I'm grateful that you listened again today. Gather your friends. Tell your friends to get to mobbing media that the education there is awesome. And if we are touching you, get across to us. Find out how you can be part of this movement, because it's a movement of Biafrans in Nigeria. We are still in Nigeria until they allow us to be free, either within Nigeria or outside Nigeria. It's C, your brother, your friend, your colleague in the trenches, your worried educator, evangelist, Dr. Joseph Agbo, Director of Political Education and Governance, Movement of Biafrans in Nigeria, and Senior Lecturer in the Department of Philosophy, Ebonyi State University, Abakaliki. Catch you next week. God bless you.